Well, let's turn to the final criterion for judging moral theories and think about our example, act utilitarianism. That is, its consistency with our considered moral judgment. And just, you might want to flip back a few pages and just remember consistency with our considered moral judgments means it's consistent with the moral judgments that we've spent time thinking about rationally, free of bias, self-interest, and other distorting influences, or free to the extent possible. That we have good reason for trusting them, unless something comes up and leads you to doubt them, and that even though we have good reason, we might be wrong, but we accept that. Now, let's think about act utilitarianism from that perspective. And in that case, we're really going to think about a few examples that we've actually mentioned earlier. Remember the example of being able to basically harvest organs from a person in order to save another 4 people? Now, our considered judgment is, or most of our considered judgments, I'm sure a few people and some utilitarians, well, I don't know how many will find this acceptable, but think that utilitarianism implies that we ought to kill that person because the consequences of killing that person and doing the transplanting his organs into the other people has the best, it looks like it has the best set of consequences of pleasure over pain in general. However, that doesn't seem to be right to us. So act utilitarianism is at least inconsistent with that, and that's one of the reasons that people have proposed that utilitarianism, the underlying idea, was right, but it's the wrong consequences. It's not acts that we should be looking at, but rather it's rules. Another issue that comes up is that we believe that if a patient refuses life-saving treatments, or at least a lot of us think about it, because it violates his or her religion. Example is Jehovah's Witness, not Jehovah's Witnesses. It might be true for them, but I know at least Christian Scientists do not believe in blood transfusions. It violates their religious beliefs. Well, if it's permissible for them to refuse, and it's impermissible for a doctor or a medical or a hospital to violate, to override the patient's autonomous decision there, if it is not right for that to happen, well then act utilitarianism, that poses a problem for act utilitarianism, because that's inconsistent with what act utilitarianism tells you. Imagine in cases where the person will survive everything, he'll have a very pleasant life, he'll go on to cure cancer, it'll create all kinds of great pleasant experiences for everybody all over. The point is that doesn't make that action right. So it looks like in these two cases, act utilitarianism is inconsistent with our considered moral judgments. Now, people have tried to revise act utilitarianism. That's how they get rule utilitarianism, to try to explain it. But here is just a point of how you apply the 3 criteria to this particular example.